Hi there. This is Beth Green, otherwise known as Granny Rocks,
And this is Sweet Baby James, otherwise known as James Maynard.
and we are here tonight to talk about me, us first, the climate, impeachment, and how we think we can continue to get away with stuff, but we can't. So I invite you to join us to listen to all of this. But before we get into it,
What show is this anyway?
here is Sweet Baby James, who is going to introduce our program.
Welcome to Granny Rocks Our World, otherwise known as Grow. And I'm sure she'll rock our world yet again tonight with her wisdom, her wit, and her uncommon sense. And we air every Monday and Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. So stay with us tonight and keep coming back. And now over to Granny.
You know, usually I try to stay away from specific political topics because I like to get to the things that underlie our behavior. You know, what patterns our behavior that we all have. So it's not just like, oh, I'm pointing a finger at them or they're pointing a finger at me or any of those things. So that's what I typically try to do. But tonight I know that I need to deal with the issues that are right out there up front. Amy says, I can't wait to hear about all of these topics. Love you both, though. Thank you.
And she also said, wow. So she's excited.
Oh, wow. Wow. Thank you, Amy. And Lily, stop trying to hump the dog. Okay. So.
You can't get away with that
all
the time.
I have been talking quite a bit over the last month about the ego. You know, and I talked about how it's there to protect us and how we get into these patterns. And these egoic patterns are really like coping mechanisms that we have developed that we think are going to make us safe. And Tracy says hello.
Hi, Tracy.
And hello, Tracy. And Elizabeth said hello, Beth and James.
Elizabeth.
Hello, Elizabeth. So happy that you're here with us tonight. So, and, you know, I don't like polarizing. So if I, you know, talk about this one or that part of it, you know, it could easily polarize. And Luann is waving and we're going to wave back. And Todd says, hi, Beth and James. And he's got all kinds of cute things. So hi, Todd. But when I talked about the ego and I was talking about coping mechanisms, I was really talking about things that actually end up making us very stupid. Because just because something worked when we were 2 days old with our mother or our grandmother or whatever doesn't mean it's going to work now. And Jill says, narcissists will be narcissists.
So true.
Yes, indeed. And Debbie says, hi, James and Beth. And it doesn't
Debbie,
sound like you're leaving right this minute. So how nice is that? And Ilan says, here.
Yes,
Well, oh,
too.
wow, I'm feeling all warm and cuddly, which is good because some people may get angry at me for what I'm going to say tonight. Lily? Okay, so let's say when we're very young, we were able to manipulate our mothers through a certain behavior, or our parents, or then we became bullies in school in order to hide our own vulnerability or whatever it is. And somehow or other, we got away with those behaviors. Well, guess what happens? We get more and more into those behaviors. And Sunny says, hi, dear. Hi, Sunny. So glad to see you, too. I haven't seen you for a while. And Christy says, hey, from Arkansas. Hello,
Hey.
Arkansas.
Go Hogs.
So, oh, what a lovely group. Okay, so we get into these patterns and because we think they're going to work for us. And we're always shocked when they don't work. Don't you think? Okay, so let's say we had a president, and I'm not going to say we do, but let's say we had a president who had an experience in his life that if he used a lot of force or power, that he could get away with things like not having to go into the army or exploiting poor people in buildings and so on. And maybe he discovered that using his power, he could get away with being, a sexual predator. Or let's say he got away with, by manipulating the system, he got away with cheating people out of money or something. Well, what do you think is going to happen to that poor schnook? He's going to believe it. He's going to think, oh, yeah. Can you please get Lily off him? Okay. He's going to think, well, this works. I think I can. Now, if I get a bigger and bigger and bigger club, I'll have more and more and more people afraid of me. And Jill says, or buying his presidency, indeed. But I think he bought his presidency by appealing to our lowest instincts, because he knows how to manipulate people, right? He's a reality TV star. Anyway, I'm not here to just talk about the president. I'm really not. But I'm starting out because this is in our face right now. So now he has, Richard said hello, Beth and James, hello, Richard, and Karen says, how you doing? So good to see all these wonderful people. Okay, so he's not the only one who gets into patterns and believes that we can continue doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over, and that it's always going to work for us. Now, for example, I'm going to talk, and that's really the deeper point that I'm trying to make. It's not just him.
I've done that.
Yes.
Over and over and over.
Exactly.
Thinking I'm going to get away with stuff.
Exactly. Oh, how true it is.
You have noticed.
I have noticed.
Quite a lot, actually.
A lot of young people think they can get away with stuff for, oh, I can just do a little drugs, or I can eat a little sugar, or I can,
Right.
See, so now, let's say we have a belief, or we've even had an experience that if we fight for ourselves, then we come out on top. You know, there's only so much food on the table and I grab it, well, I'm going to get the more food that's on the table, right? And so I think, whoa, this really works. I'm getting what I need here. Or whites, America first, or whites first, or women first, or usually men first, but it could be anybody, right? And so we think that if we continue that behavior of thinking of ourselves first, and our president spoke to the UN about America first, you know, so evidently he has this belief, and Helen is here, and hi, Helen. So now, I happen to have read this week that homeless populations in LA are now suffering from leprosy.
Whoa.
Leprosy. Guess what? Leprosy is contagious. So we don't have to worry about the homeless people. All we have to do is put ourselves first. Say, we're going to have our homes somewhere, and I'm never going to walk past them. I'm never going to be impacted. I'm never going to be impacted. I'm never going to be impacted. I'm never going to be impacted, right? Well, that's not the way it goes. And I also read today something else that was horribly distressing, that 2 million people have been cut off from water in Zimbabwe, and they had
clean drinking water.
Drinking water.
Instead, they're having to drink dirty water.
They're drinking dirty water. They're desperate, and they're subject to typhus. Well, that's contagious, isn't it?
Typhus, yeah.
Yeah, cholera. You see, but hey, that's never going to impact me or us or anybody who has anything to do with.
Unless somebody happens to get on an airplane from there over to here, and then there you go.
They may have been impacted.
Here.
Exactly. So we think that just because we've been getting away with me first, that we always will. Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why we aren't going to be able to get away with me first, but that is one of the reasons. And, you know, every time I read about how the administration has decided to cut off medical aid to immigrants and people, it's like, oh, yeah, because obviously they don't breathe the same air that we do. So they're never going to infect us. I mean, that's not the only reason we should, but it isn't just a humanitarian crisis. It's a lack of common sense crisis, guys. How could we be so stupid? I almost called this show, How Could We Be So Stupid? Can we say this together? How can we be so stupid? Okay, now, let's say the climate. You know, we've been polluting and emitting greenhouse gases for years. And, you know, we've gotten away with it. Really? What about all these floods? What about all these droughts?
What about all these wildfires?
What about all these wildfires?
Freakish weather.
But we don't even want to notice. We're not getting away with it anymore, guys. We're not. Because the way that we've done business doesn't work anymore. So I happened to read that Merrill Lynch Todd just came out with So True. So Merrill Lynch has just published a report on top of the UN report, which is like climate catastrophe. And then we have this report from Merrill Lynch saying Tokyo, New York, all the big cities that are on the coast are going to be flooding. They're going to be inundating. We're going to have problems with agriculture. We already have all these problems. Island is saying, I am so listening.
Yay,
Yes.
Island.
Yes. So, they just, and they're saying, oh, let's look at the fiscal opportunities for us here. Not the dead bodies, the people who have no food, the droughts and so on. But see, we can't get away with it. But now, here's the joke on us, right? One of the jokes on us. So the news is now full of President Trump and the president of the Ukraine. And he glaringly, obviously, was trying to bribe and extort a political favor out of this guy. And this is a high crime and a misdemeanor. And now the House is starting impeachment inquiry around him. And maybe some Republicans, if they had to, might have to do something about it. But what about the real impeachable offenses, which are turning back clean air regulations, turning back clean water regulations, not allowing California to control its own emissions when that state has the worst pollution in any state in the U.S. And Jill says, when the media and president focus more attention on deaths by vaping, 10 to date, banning vaping in state after state versus banning guns, it's crazy. Jill, exactly. So what are we talking about here? Well, because it's easier to flip this little switch than it is to flip this switch. It's easier to stop a couple of companies who are putting out these vaping apparatuses, I think they're e-cigarettes, right? Than to change the culture of violence in the nation. Then it's easier to point to corruption, which is so rife in our administration, than to confront the culture that has permitted us to go decade after decade ignoring science for climate change, which is devastating our planet. But see, we would have to do something about that. That's a big change. Why don't we just push a button and get rid of Trump and it'll all be over? Well, we could push a button, we could get rid of Trump, and it wouldn't all be over. Because if Trump were the only problem, then we wouldn't have had him in office to start with. It's not him. It's a whole system of a way of thinking short term, me first. This is all egoic thinking. So we can't get away with it anymore. We can't get away with anything anymore. Our addictions that destroy us, the violence, the lack of honesty and integrity, we become corrupt because we think we can get away with it. Like young people who smoke and drink, and I used to be one of those, or who take drugs. I used to be young people, at least. So, you know what I mean? And see, there were people like me. They called us the Canary Brigade. I have multiple chemical sensitivities along with 5 million other health conditions, right? So I go out there and I smell pollution, diesel, whatever it is, and I feel sick. And people say, oh, Beth, you're just too sensitive. You're just too sensitive. No, I'm not too sensitive. You are not sensitive enough to know what's killing you. And Todd said, we can't get away with it anymore. You are so right. And Ilan says, yeah. Me too. I bet she has the chemical sensitivity. You see what I mean? Those of us who are sensitive to a particular kind of toxin, I feel the anger and the rage and the despair And I know that poverty is destroying brains because people who don't have clean food, who are eating pesticides, who are drinking dirty water, or I mean, our own people who are drinking polluted water. I mean, all of that is, guess what? Toxicity to the brain. You know what this is? You know, when you think about all that water that's going to be inundating our cities, think about the mold problem. There are people who are sensitive to mold. They're going to have Alzheimer's. Oh, great. So now we're going to have more people with Alzheimer's, right? More people with other toxic conditions because we were too stupid to acknowledge the truth. You can't get away with anything in the long run. Island says, it so saddens me. Me too, honey. It makes me want to cry. So what I'm saying is it's not just Trump. And it's not just this group or that group or the other group, or it's not just this or it's not just that. It's the fact that we get stuck. We get stuck in ways of thinking and behaving that we think we are getting away with until 30 years later we get cancer and find out we should have stopped eating sugar 30 years before. Jill says no one thinks it's their problem until it is. You are so right. You are so right. What epidemic is going to hit us next? Oh, remember the HIV epidemic could only impact gays. Remember that illusion? How long did that illusion last? And then when it started hitting other people, oh, we have to do something about it. Or, you know, if there are drugs that are inundating the inner city and Black people are dying of opium overdoses, oh, well, who cares? Just like, you know. But, you know, it's ridiculous. I am us. I am them.
And now there's a widespread opioid crisis.
Now there's a widespread opioid crisis. Jamie said they are trying to keep us wrapped up in ego and consumerism. Right on, Jamie.
So true.
So we know we can't get away with this, but we have to confront the mindset that says, but we always have. My mother ate like this. My father drove, you know, a 64 Chevy that had pollution coming out of it, and it was good enough. It was good enough for Dad. It's good enough for me. Well, it wasn't good enough for Dad, and it's definitely not good enough for us, and it's not good enough for our children. Does it take a 16-year-old screaming at us? You know, I was so appalled to see that Greta, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, Thunberg, or that's because I have Alzheimer's, but I don't have Alzheimer's, but I have some kind of, you know, cognitive impairment. You know, people attacking her for being angry. Well, what the hell? You know, sometimes anger is appropriate. There's a lot to be angry about. We have sold ourselves out. 2025, is this Merrill Lynch? Are they the alarmists? They must be those scientific kooks. You know, I can't believe it. I can't believe anybody is still arguing about this. It's time to start arguing, to stop arguing. It's time for us all to start admitting the truth. Thunberg. Thank you, Todd. I knew somebody would remember. I don't want to be angry. I really don't. I want to move forward. I want to move forward with you. I want to confront the state of consciousness that allows us to think we can get away with anything. I can abuse my husband and he'll never leave me. I can cheat my workers and they'll never go somewhere else. I can put poison in my body and still push myself to go to work. Donna says, we live in a very sad time. We have always had problems, but people today have no value for human life. Guns, drugs, theft, no feelings for others. You're right, Donna. But there's, I mean, when I was growing up, you know, I'm 74, in the good old days, in the 40s and 50s, people didn't give a damn either. Unless you were in their group, they didn't care. You know, I heard Polak jokes. Polak jokes. There was Poles that were no good. Now, then it's always immigrants or anybody who's slightly different. Jewish jokes, blacks. You know, look at the movies of the era, and you tell me those were the good old days for black people who are always either Aunt Jemima or God knows what. No, there's no good old days. We thought we were getting away with it then. We didn't realize that we were, to get, I think, to Donna's point, that we were destroying our souls. And now we're realizing we're also destroying our bodies. The earth is the body of the collective of humanity and all the other plants and animals. Aylan says, I can relate to everything you're saying. I hope it's not too late. I don't know the answer to that, Aylan, but it isn't too late for us to speak and share. Share this program. Share it, share it, share it, share it, even if you don't want to. Like it, leave your comments after the show. I always answer the comments, even after the live stream is over. Share it, talk, start thinking about the ways that you still think that you can get away with something. And let's stop just pointing the finger at them. Point the finger at us, the hand at us, and let us resolve. We can do better. I believe it. So come back again on, is this Wednesday? Monday, 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. Grow, Granny Rocks Our World.
And for something positive and uplifting, Thursday, tomorrow, Dreams of Peace.
That's right.
Where Beth plays beautiful piano music that is very moving and inspiring.
And that's at 7 p.m. Also, we have a free program called the Living with Reality discussion group. You can download a free book from my website, bethgreen.org. It's called Living with Reality. Living with Reality.
Every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 Pacific time.
Exactly. We also have a discussion group that I lead every Wednesday night from 7 to 8 p.m. Pacific time. There is a charge for it, but so what? I'm leading the group. I will help you as well as everyone else in that group.
And the first time you come, it's free.
So, Aylan says, love you too. Well, we
you.
also love you, and we love all of our listeners and viewers from around the world. I hope to God that we wake up.
Yes, this is a wake-up call.